So I am here with the amazing Cesar Quintero of The Profit Recipe. Cesar is a professional implementer of the entrepreneurial operating system, amongst other things, sometimes referred to as EOS or Traction. And Cesar, say hello.
Hello.
So what we wanted to do today is, things are changing so quickly, and we wanted to create something for your community, really the community at large of entrepreneurs. We're calling this What You Need to Know Now. So you've obviously got a lot of experience working with companies in a lot of different stages. We're in this, weird, unprecedented times. What are some things that you want your clients, people in your community to know? What should they be focusing on? What should they be thinking about? What are some tools for success that you want your audience to know?
Yeah, so it's something we've been talking about, and I still have my business as well, so I'm going through this as well, along with the 26 other clients we do traction with. So I think the first thing is to say this is a total shit show. So I think we need to reinforce that we're all in this at the same time, and we're all going through this together, and we need to acknowledge that it is that, right? Yeah. I think the first thing that, for instance, for me, what was hardest to do was take care of myself first. I think that's the first thing I need to do as a leader in a crisis, because as they say in the airlines, and when you're doing your put your mask on first, yeah, and then assist others. Because in reality, if we're not in the right mindset, if we're frantic and we're communicating chaos, our team will just get that same vibe, because we're all going through this at the same time. So I think this specific crisis is not a personal crisis. It's everybody's going through it, yeah, together. So we need to be conscious of ourselves and others. So there's, different tips around Miracle Morning or the one thing, and, different ways that we can set our rhythms. And right now, all being in quarantine, is there a way for us to set a routine? When we wake up, we have this sense of accomplishment of small things that could set our day up for success, right? Yeah. So I shaved today. That's great. Right? I went to the shower. I took my vitamin. I have my routine every morning that if I don't do, I feel like I'm on a Sunday.
You went to the shower. You actually go in the shower?
I go in the shower and take the shower. Yeah, shampoo and everything. But in reality, if I don't do those things in that routine, I think it's a Sunday, and treating these days as Sundays every day is not the right approach, I feel, for me, right? Absolutely. So I think that would be point number one, is take care of yourself as a leader first, as a person. The second thing I would go through is, and this is something that happened to me initially, is that, it's a weekend and all these things, they started with the lockup and the things while we were in the weekend, and I started feeling anxiety, and I didn't know what others were thinking. I didn't know what their decision was, since I'm not in the day-to-day of my business anymore. So I started feeling anxiety of what decisions have been made, what's going on, how do we know what everything's happening. So I think the second point as a leader is we need to communicate consistently and often with our teams. We need to bump up that consistency and communication, because this is a time where we need to, over communicate. Yeah. Even when you say, is it necessary? Yes, it's necessary. Everybody needs to listen to the leader, understand where the vision is. We all need to be aligned and in the way of understanding what's happening and what's going on, right? Number three, so my daughters are just walking down, so I'm going to get my earpiece right now. This is a new reality, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like having kids walk through your Zoom calls is it's perfectly normal now.
Yeah, so they just woke up out of their nap.
So number one, take care of yourself. Number two, communicate more than necessary.
Yeah. Number three, I think it's a lot around, reflect and improve. This is a time where everything you said I don't have time for, we kind of have some time to do.
Yeah.
So it's time to look into our businesses, understand the processes, the systems, document, clean up, but not only businesses, but also as yourself as a person. I think it's a good time to reflect on, how am I as a parent? How am I as a husband? How am I as a leader? How am I, and find ways that I can improve myself and understand, where we are as a leader, as a person, and as a company, and really try to understand and over optimize, right? And start optimizing things and making things more efficient. So every time we said we don't have enough time to,
Sure.
to write this process down or to streamline different things, this is a time that you get to do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there's another piece around this is in every crisis, innovation and creativity starts running wild. I'm
Yeah.
part of this organization called the Entrepreneurs Organization that you're a part of, Wendy, right?
Yep.
And what I've seen being part of a global leader here is that everybody has their creativity turned on. So that looks like complete chaos, right? Everybody's just trying to make up stuff and do everything. But if you hone in the energy and the creative energy into proactive things with your leadership team or with people within your company, this is a time to innovate.
Yeah.
Because this is a time where we need to pivot and understand what are the trends that are going to stick, what are the trends that are not, what is the new world we're going to live in, and how long is that going to do? What happens if my company is 80% down in sales? So what happens to us? How can we pivot to really shift that mindset and understand, maybe test some different things in an agile way, but then, strategize and innovate. This is the time to do that.
Absolutely. So building on the pivoting, so there are lots of companies who have seen their businesses decline dramatically. And to be in the right mindset of being able to pivot and maybe be more opportunistic, what are some ways to do that so that, to your point, you're not just coming up with a zillion ideas and trying all kinds of things, but that you're doing it in a way that is strategic and that feels organized to a certain degree.
Yeah, and that's where I bring in the EOS process. It's such a great process where every week we're in this level 10 meeting, right? And every week we come together and we strategically think about things and how to operate. But there's deadlines, right? So on these strategic meetings, we call them to-dos. They're 7-day action items. So let's try to feel something out. Let's see what the strategy is and pivot. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But at the same time, it's not something we're going to put all our chips in, but we need to iterate and understand, what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, and it's tough because if you're a service industry, if you're a restaurant, if you're I have a foreign mate who owns swimming schools.
Yeah.
There is no way to pivot in reality, right? It's how do we hunker down and change the way we do? But you know what? It's incredible. They started online curriculum right now for kids and a way for them to engage in the water, in the pool, or for anybody who's not in virtual schools, they have that or in spring break. So they have been pivoting in different ways. So there's always a way to pivot, at least to keep top of mind to clients and understand, how we can contribute and help.
Yeah, I've been so impressed and inspired by so many people and watching just little things they do. And they're not necessarily all revenue producing today, but to your point, there are ways to stay connected, to stay engaged, and to really be helpful, which that's what I'm seeing, which I always think that's a good strategy. How can you be helpful? How can you provide value? But I'm seeing so much more of it today, and I really hope that that's a tactic that sticks. So I've been so inspired by that.
Yeah.
So speaking of, the EOS system, and I'm familiar with the rhythms and the processes, which make it really such a valuable system to use. But given that things are changing so rapidly, are you seeing the companies that you work with, are they keeping up with it? Have they adjusted? Are they still working on these yearly and quarterly rocks, or have you adjusted that at all to work more with what's happening right now?
What I love about the EOS system is that it's very simple. It's a simple system. What I've seen work well with most companies that I've worked with is they're pivoting. So we always have to have our long-term vision there because we understand where we're going, and our core focus, which is our purpose and what we do, that's our compass, or North Star, as some call it. So as long as you keep that in mind, the decisions you make today will always be fueled by that purpose, fueled by why we do what we do. I think what's happened tactically is that a lot of companies, instead of doing quarterly right now, they're doing 45, especially those that are in deep crisis. They're not planning for the full 13 weeks. They're just planning for 4 or 5 weeks at a time. And they have the weekly pulse, which is a level 10 meetings. But at the same time, they're adding, since everybody's gone virtual, they're adding a daily huddle, a daily system, maybe morning, night, which is a 5-minute touch point with all your teams, just to make sure everybody's headed on track. Three main questions could be: what was accomplished yesterday? What's a big win from yesterday? What's the most pressing thing for today? That way we keep the rock on top of mind. And then something I need from the group. Those could be 3 simple questions you could ask every day in a huddle. But that way you have the tactical way and the meeting pulse of, every day you're focusing on the week. Then on the weekly level 10s, you're focusing on those 8, 13 weeks, depending on where you are in the planning cycle, just to see what happens in the rates. And, that's the agile process that EOS is part of.
Yeah, and I found in our company, we added an end of day huddle, to your point, just create more communication. And I'm finding that it's more important now, more than ever, to adhere to structure and processes and not deviate from that, because that, I think, gives our team a sense of comfort and predictability, which I feel like is extra needed right now. So speaking of employees and culture, which obviously is so key to all of our success, so many companies have had to go from, being in office, seeing each other physically, to this virtual situation. What do you want, I guess, your community to know now, about navigating that and how best to navigate it, so that, we are keeping kind of that culture intact and making sure that our team is as cohesive as possible?
Yeah, and this is a time where we have to hone in on culture, right? And we have to make sure that, we as we say, as good parents, we need to have clear rules, which are our behaviors, our culture, our what's expected and what's not. Repeat them constantly as much as we can. That goes into the over communication. So right now we should be over communicating the behaviors we expect everyone in our, and it's not only our employees, it's our vendors, it's our customers, it's every person that is in touch with our business. It's crucial for us to repeat how we expect them to behave, how they could expect us to behave, right? And then also we need to live by it as leaders. We need to show that we are doing what we say we want to do, right? And we want to. I think the other piece of this is a lot of people could come into judgment as to how people are reacting right now, because we're all in this sense of crisis. And a lot of people say that this is when the true colors pop out. And I just want to break a little bit of that judgment, because this is not the true colors of people. Some people are reacting this way because they are averse to risk, they're averse to crisis. And not everyone is entrepreneurial. Right. A lot of people who are entrepreneurial embrace change, but that's the very few in our population, right? And one of the things I want to remind leaders is that one of the things that most people in the company want is comfort and predictability, and that's impossible to give right now. So as much as you can always share from your heart and share straight, right? Don't go around the bush, and don't just be clear on what needs to happen and what's going on. Because if you're not clear with your team, then they'll start inventing those stories in their minds, and it creates more and more anxiety.
Yeah.
So
it's really
a lot
good.
of that is, I think this is not the point where we're all our true selves. This is who we are when we're in crisis.
Yeah.
Which is, for some of us, it's not the best.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. No, that's great. Great point.
Yeah.
So I feel so incredibly grateful that I have a community, as you mentioned, the EO community. I have this, support group at my fingertips 24/7. And also I have all of this structure that you're talking about with EOS, so I have that to rely on. For those companies, those CEOs, those entrepreneurs that don't have the structure, because maybe they're not using a process, a system like EOS, nor maybe are they part of a community like an EO. What are some things that you want them to know that they can tap into today?
Well, for once, I'm not for once. For now, for once, one of the things that I'm really trying to do is help first, because that's one of our core values in EOS. And so I've been offering my clients and through this as well. I can be part of any strategic IDS that they need. I can be part of a level 10 meeting. At this point, I have time, so I can always adapt to your time. And if anybody out there needs any feedback, go into any of these points a little with more depth and tools. Reach out to me. My link is on my website, theprofitrecipe.com. You can book a meeting with me, half an hour, 1 hour, whatever you need. We can strategically IDS and discuss this and solve an issue that you're going through in your company. So this is the time to just help, right? And since we're all going through this together, we all want to make it through together.
Yeah, no, that's an amazing offer. That's very generous. So thank you for your time. Thank you for all of those incredible tips and resources. I think they're extremely helpful in what's needed right now. So with that, I will sign off, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Wendy.